Say again. I can't hear you. I don't know if it's me or not. Can you hear me?
How's that?
Now I can hear you.
Yeah. There's my dog. I was trying to use my cell phone and it's, I had to actually type the number in rather than just click a button because it was going to launch it as a fresh meeting.
All right, so got people in the waiting room. I clicked admit all.
Off if you wanted to. Totally up to you.
Was that?
You could probably turn off the meeting room if you wanted to. Interesting, the phone, every time I do something, it mutes it.
Hello.
Hey.
Howdy.
How's everybody?
The dogs are quiet until you get on a Zoom call.
Of course, yeah. Say hello.
Let me check to see what's going on. Hold on. Oh, it's because somebody's home.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Oh.
Hi, Tom.
Doing good, doing good.
Audrey, what bridge is that behind you?
That is the bridge in Antietam,
Burnside Bridge.
Burnside Bridge, with the survivor tree in the back.
Oh, very nice.
Was that tree there at the time of the battle? Is that why it's called the survivor tree?
Yes. And although I'm not a historian, apparently there's a significant amount of bullets in it.
Oh,
Really? Wow.
Yeah. That's why it's called the survivor tree.
Wow.
So it's actually a very cool place, and they're redoing the Park Service is redoing that area to make it a little more user friendly. So I'm gonna take another ride up there in the fall, and if the work is done, because it'll be very pretty. It has they're redoing the walkway and some of the bridges. So
you ever seen one of the reenactments there?
I have not, but I'd like to go. I think it would be very interesting. I think that's in
Sure.
September, right?
Yeah, I forget what time of year. Might be September, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, Gettysburg is July, I think. It's
July. It's always hot. That I know.
yes.
Well, the one thing when our kids were little, we took them up there for a reenactment, and you always wonder how they convince people to charge into this hail of bullets and cannon fire and everything. Well, when they started the battle, the immediate thing you notice is the whole field is full of gun smoke and you can't see anything. The movies show no smoke, but I guess they couldn't even see what they were charging into.
Mm.
What's everyone been taking pictures of recently?
People.
Yeah, doing some flowers. Peonies are starting to bloom at Meadowlark.
Our backyards, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Backyard, yeah. Yeah, that's our next competition.
Sorry, I'm on my phone because I'm upgrading my computer. John run it, but I'm gonna be here.
Oh, so Sam just wants to, she just wants to throw the darts. I see.
Mm. So just a reminder, we have the Oatlands thing on 23rd, which is in 10 days.
Yeah, that's great. That'll be fun. I haven't been there in 2 decades. So I'm looking forward to return. It's been a really long time. Maybe
hope
not that long.
Do
Huh?
we have to do anything to sign up for that or just
Show up.
show up and,
Yeah, just show up. I'll be there to check off the list.
okay.
To show up. And if you want, I mean, if you know you're coming, I'll just know in my head I'll have at least, 20 people or something like that.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then the next date is June 12th. Or no,
Yeah,
Wait.
I think you're right.
yeah.
I think that sounds right. No?
Yeah, it is the 12th. So that's the second date. We do have rain dates, but hopefully it won't rain. So. And then our competition is the 27th of May. And Jeff Johnson's going to be our judge. So that'll be good to have Jeff.
Great. Mhm.
And I'm thinking, if it's like a close-up picture and you get something at Oatlands, just put it in. It's in a backyard.
Is it supposed to be our backyard?
Yeah, I think it said
backyard.
in my yard was
Oh,
the
does it
theme.
say in my?
Yes.
I'll put it because that's
Could it-
what's hard.
Could it be in the backyard? Because in the backyard and in my backyard are two different things. My backyard has my dogs that dig up my petunias and everything else. So
Technically, it said
That's a good
in my
action
yard,
photo.
so it doesn't have to be front or side. No specification on that.
oh, good. Okay. Because the dogs have really gone to town on the backyard this year.
Oh,
Remember,
Well, you could take a photo of that and then label it crime scene.
God.
Yes, I
Yeah.
could. That might work.
remember when we came up with these, we were in the middle of COVID. Now, free again. So
I'm not leaving our house, so yeah.
we were a little more stuck.
No, it's free to roam.
Yeah.
Now
So
left on.
on out the voting link for board. So did everybody get that email to vote?
Maybe.
Get that in by the end of the month, and then
Okay.
get ramp up for voting on next year's topic. Or
Okay.
if anybody has topics, ideas, you can send them to John or me, or you can post them on Facebook. Maybe just email him now at this point because he's got that kind of ready to go. All right. So I figure you guys can just kind of freely discuss these photos, and if the maker is online, they can talk about why they took it or why they did it the way they did it, or if they even edited it at all, because sometimes it comes out perfect, right when you
Not,
Oh, yeah.
not for me. Well, this is my photo. I actually took this on a vacation this past September in Michigan. Went up to Upper Peninsula. So this was in a yard of the house that we rented. Not my yard, but yeah, I was just walking around the yard because it was like kind of a rainy day. Found these little mushrooms, and then to my surprise, there was a little critter hanging out on top. Just, took his picture.
Did you even see the critter before you looked at the?
No, not until I actually used I had on the camera at the time. I think I was using the 100 to 400, so I could just stay back a little bit. But although I don't think he would have gone anywhere.
I think there's at least one more critter in this image.
There was two at one time. What else are you looking at?
Down here.
Yeah, so there was so there was two. Yep, I didn't even see that when I was processing this one, but there was two up on, but the one, he was crawling away.
Nice muted colors. I mean, very pleasing colors.
think I desaturated the greens a little bit. So it wouldn't take away from the cute little guy who's very neutral.
Those are the coolest mushrooms I've ever seen.
They are very
Well, I went to
cool.
try to actually take more pictures the next day and they were gone. There was some red squirrel there and they were eating everything. So they ate them.
Wow.
So they were there one day and gone the next.
Well, at
Wow.
least you know they're edible now.
Yeah.
There's what,
I might have blurred the bottom right corner because I think it's a little bit of a leading line out of the picture. So
Mhm.
you have beautiful bokeh on the top.
Mm.
It might have been worth it to blur or crop some of that grass out so that you know your eye doesn't run out because there's kind of a
Yeah.
leading line from the mushroom out to where the grass is kind of in focus there.
Mhm.
So I would either blur it or crop it in a little bit to get rid of that corner. But it's a beautiful
Yeah,
picture.
thanks. Yeah, I could blur it with either texture or clarity. Would be
Yeah,
great.
yeah, it's a beautiful picture.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. I totally love mushrooms these days. And I noticed that Christy Odom is also getting into mushrooms. I
Oh,
follow her on Instagram and it looks like maybe she's growing them herself and has some really fun videos and all that. But I went out to Seneca Creek with my husband. He was fly fishing and I was just taking pictures of mushrooms and there's so many and they're so cool. So I think this is great.
You're lucky enough every once in a while to find some colorful ones. These were not, but yeah. Yeah.
yeah, the mushrooms in my yard are pretty ugly looking. These are cool.
Yeah, these really have nice textures.
Yeah, yeah.
Looks like the stalks are kind of maybe shiny, like that lower mushroom. It looks like it might be a
It
little,
was raining, so they're a little wet. Or was raining. Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, well, thanks everyone.
Oh,
Oh, that's cute.
Well, this is mine too, also in Michigan. So was on a beach. It was called Miners Beach. Was there to actually take pictures of a little waterfall. But on the beach were all these birch trees. So fallen birch trees. A lot of trees were down. It was a very unusual beach. But all of a sudden here was this little chipmunk, and he was just scavenging and looking for food. I have a lot of pictures of him. This was like the best one that was in focus with his eye, because he was like a spaz. He was just moving all over the place.
they move fast.
For food. He was really cute. He was fun to watch.
very cute.
So my thought on this one, I like I like your depth of field on this. I think it really brings the viewer's eye directly to your subject, which is that chipmunk. Even though the chipmunk is very small in the frame, the rest of it I think helps with the setting. So I wouldn't have cropped it anymore. My only significant feedback on this would be I would have used a clone stamp and just cloned out these dark areas in the sand.
Yeah,
Especially this one up here on the right. This one is really distracting.
I did get rid of some of them, and then I decided to leave some because that's really how the beach was. Like, it was not a beach where you go and lay out. There was a lot of debris.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually the one in the way back, I did mean to kind of desaturate that a little bit, and I kind of forgot.
Yeah, that's the only significant distraction I think is just
Yeah.
that real big dark spot. But otherwise, I kind of like the fact that he's like, "Please feed me."
Exactly. Yeah.
He looks so tiny. Do you think he was a baby? Or
I don't know. Yeah. They are so small anyhow, so yeah. But he
Well,
was
interesting, by
Yeah.
showing it against the sand, he stands out. I mean, I guess in most cases you got them in a forest setting and they maybe don't stand out as well. They blend in too much.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a surprise to see a chipmunk on a beach.
Yeah.
Any other feedback or comments? Go to the next one.
Thanks, everybody. Wow, that's fun. Is the owner on?
I don't think so.
Mhm.
I don't recall seeing him.
This is a serious composite. Yeah. I'd like to know how they done it.
Any comments? I have some critique if nobody else has.
No, go ahead.
Go for it.
It's an interesting concept, and I think with the tree mirrored up and down, and my initial thought was it's off. It's off just a little bit. I like the mirrored concept. I think the mirrored concept would have been better if this moon, the lunar eclipse, were on the other side of the image to
Mhm.
match the moon up here at the top. To me, that would have helped sell the concept much better. I like I mean, it is what it is, but the burning bush concept up here at the top, it's not quite mirrored. Like this is the branch here that's actually on this side, I think. So I think if he had taken that bottom
Lift
and
it.
flipped it
Yeah.
again, it would have helped sell that mirror concept, night and day,
Mhm.
top and bottom. What did Stranger Things call it? Like the underside or whatever. Anyway, great concept. Just a couple of little tweaks I think could have really sold that concept and nailed it.
Mm.
So do you understand what the like the figure 8 kind of
Mm-mm.
thing is? That crosses in the center with the bleeding heart.
Mm.
I don't. It may have been a reference to infinity,
Oh,
or just may have been an artifact of the mirroring effect. I don't know. But it does, if you look carefully, you'll see the little twist right here that
mhm.
makes it look like it may be a type of Mobius, but I'm guessing.
Is there a title?
As the
Oh, wait,
author,
hey, the author is here. I never
yeah,
did see you sneak in, Jack.
and I put this in really to see what kind of reaction to the content. This was we had the pattern competition a couple of months ago, and this kind of came out of that, and that there are all kinds of patterns, and so this is there's a lot of sort of symbolic content in this, and night and day, sure, and no, the tree is not perfectly mirrored, and that wasn't, and it's a solar eclipse, and it's a moon, so it's not intended to be, exactly a geometric image. The top is the background is Grand Canyon. The bottom is the sky in the White Mountains of California. And it also is a way of just putting out some things there related to the relationship between our conscious and our unconscious. And you know, night and day kind of goes along with that, because more likely we're conscious, if we're conscious at all, it's more likely during the day than at night. And some of it, actually the burning bush is kind of in that vein, though actually the whole thing is really centered. There's a heart there and it's bleeding, but there's also fire. And these were all things that actually kind of came to me in, I don't know, dreams, and just, and so I tried putting some stuff out there, and I knew it was pretty fringy, and just interested in sort of the feedback of it. You know, I'm interested in technical, sure. Also in, you know, the content of it, or how you feel when you see something like that, or, you know, photographs can have lots of things going on. And well, sometimes they got so much going on, you can't see, you know, the forest for the trees. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that.
I didn't notice the fire in the top tree. I thought it was just like light until you said fire. And then I was like, oh yes, that's fire.
Yeah, John mentioned the burning bush, which,
Yeah.
you know, biblically is certainly, you know, it's got plenty of history there. And yeah, it's sort of bleeding and burning are really the sort of two, from an experiential stamp. I mean, you can say fire and blood, and those are things, but burning and bleeding are experiences. And those kinds of differences, just trying, you know, I get ideas sometimes, and then they're not inherently visual, you know, and then it's like, oh, well, you come up with an idea, and how it actually, you know, shows up, it's like, oh, well, that's different. Anyway, that's what showed up. For what it's worth.
Any other comments? All right, moving on. I have the perfect caption for this one.
These two birds drove me absolutely crazy, because no matter how much I tried to photograph them, they were never in the same plane. And I didn't want to crank my camera up to the lens up to f/22, because then everything gets grainy. And I ended up, I think, around f/11 for this. And not only that, but even though I got the background straight, the platform wasn't straight. So I spent the whole day out there, and this was the only picture that really turned out.
For what it's worth, I think you made the right call in what is the quote, the level line. The background would have been, if that were off centered, that would have been far more distracting than the off level nest. I mean, we've all been out and we've all seen these osprey nest platforms, and they're not all perfectly level. So to me, that didn't strike me at all. But goodbye, dear. I'm off to work. I'll pick up dinner on the way home. Fish again? I thought it was the timing on this was fantastic. I mean, you got the wing spread, you got the beaks kissing, if you will. You know, the timing was phenomenal. Again, I think you did a great choice on what was going to be your level. I did zoom in. You got a little bit of grain in here that
Yeah.
you could have taken out at post-processing if you wished. Some folks like a little bit of grain to help indicate the, just a little drama, a little effect. My only technical observation was the chromatic aberration that's just real visible in this area.
Oh, you're right.
And a little bit over here. In Lightroom, it's a relatively simple correction, and I think that green chromatic aberration is a little bit of a distraction. The rest of the image, I think, is fine. Like I said, I love the timing, the position of the wings, and that caption just immediately came to mind. I'm like, he's off to work again. And anyway, I thought it was a great image.
Thank you. I didn't even realize that the color was off. I was so frustrated with the level on the fact that I couldn't get the platform. And when I cut the picture down, it didn't, it felt like the bird was being shortchanged.
Yeah.
So I struggled with this. So thank you.
I like the light on the wings. That's really lovely. You got a little bit of highlights on the bird on the top on his head, but I don't really notice that too much. With all the nice light coming through the wings, they're all spread. It's not.
Those wings are really cool in that they seem to slash across the picture from the top right to the bottom left. And that's sort of the first thing that grabbed my attention was those wings. And then you start to look at it and see the other detail. Very cool.
The timing that, John mentioned, I mean, to capture, I don't know what your shutter speed was, but I'm guessing that this bird had kind of completed that movement and maybe was starting to move back or something. I mean, it seems like it's still, even though it's sort of well, it is a moving picture, but really nice.
Yep. He actually was coming in from not having caught anything. So he actually had come back around, and I sat there, I think 3.5 hours to get this picture.
Blackwater?
No, this is
Oh.
up in, there's a little park called Merkel in Maryland, and they have 2 areas where you can, you're a good distance from the osprey, but with a long lens, you can easily take pictures.
Yeah, I guess the one I caught at Blackwater is a little more straight. I mean, you could, if you're really that, I think it's a minor point, and you could tweak it with Lightroom, Photoshop, whichever, to make it straighter. You're messing with the, below the bird, you can move things around, but I really, to me, that's it's all right that where the 2 of them are touching, that's the real focal point, and the rest of it is very secondary. Do you know what your ISO was when you were shooting this?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, Sam, do you have there's the settings. Oh, I was only on f6.7. I thought I was on 11 for this. I had messed around. So I've shot these birds up to 1/1500, but I started slowing down because I was getting way too much grain. So like I said, after 3.5 hours of sitting there and playing with all my F and my shutter speed and just getting very frustrated, this was the best one of the bunch. So
It's a great moment.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it's a well-done image, and I really like it, particularly where the beaks come together. That's just center point or the focal point of the image. And I can see where you were between a kind of rock and a hard place when it came to the horizon line in the background and leveling out the perch. That's difficult. And I don't see any way you really could have corrected that without making one of them tilted more. So lovely image. I like it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Who wants
That's
to go first?
beautiful.
I just like purple and obviously like really dark images. So
Beautiful leading lines there.
thank you.
It's gorgeous. I love your water drops and they're really crisp and in focus there.
I got that the day we went to Meadowlark
Oh, nice.
at the very front towards the road that backs to the building.
Yeah, good.
Did you have your water spray with you?
No, it had rained. That's just the way it was in nature.
Very nice.
Wow.
Lucky.
Very, very nice.
I love the dark feeling on this. What this came out, the purple on that black field, it immediately strikes a mood. I think for me, I would have been tempted to pull the whites up a little bit, not the overall exposure, but just a little bit of the whites. I think that would have helped bring out the texture and the water drops a little bit more. But I'm nitpicking here. I'm really nitpicking. I love the look of this. I mean, the macro feel to it. When I first saw it, I thought it may have been flower petals on a mirrored surface. But the more I looked at it, that couldn't have been it. But again, it was just one of those images that it just pulls you in, it holds your attention, and it's a lovely composition.
Thank you.
Any other
Amazing color, yeah. Great saturation.
Any other comments?
I thought it was fungi at first, but then oh, I got the bigger picture, and it's clearly
Is it a
not.
tulip? Christina, was that a tulip?
Sorry, I had to turn up. Some of you are really loud and some of you are really soft. So I'm trying to.
Nikki's
adjust my
mic is
audio.
a little bit muffled. But
Yeah. I think it is a tulip. Yeah, that one was actually a tulip because they have all kinds out there, but that was a tulip that just kind of was feeling some of the rain, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty.
That's very pretty.
all right. Any other comments? Moving on.
That's me too. It's the first time I had shot those ducks, or even like the second time I'd seen them at Huntley. So I went there, and I guess that's the green winged or green tipped winged teal, whatever.
That's really beautiful. You did a great job. The eye is so perfectly in focus.
I got really lucky, but yeah.
That's what you want. And the pattern on the duck is gorgeous.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get it with its wings up because I was like, why is it called green wing? Because when they're swimming, you don't see it very much. So then she, I think this is a he because it's pretty colored, decided to show off a little bit.
His head almost looks to me like paper mache. So,
Yeah.
detailed.
Yeah, great
Awesome.
shot. Good reflection.
Did you think at all, Christina, about getting rid of some of the background
I
box or whatever?
I thought about trying to blur it out or copy it, and I tried, but with some of the reflections, it
Pretty hard.
began to look super unnatural, super quick. And I don't mind doing some light processing, but it just became, it looked very heavy handed when I tried to do it. And that could be lack of skill on my part or just not quite getting how to do the reflections when I was trying to clone out some of the background. Because I could get the top part out, but then you could see the reflection and I'm like, well, the reflection came from somewhere. So it just ended up looking a little odd to me.
Yeah, yeah, true.
In the upper right-hand corner where you've got that white.
Oh
bunch
yeah.
of- I might tone that down a little bit or crop it out or clone it out because it's a distracting line out of the picture. And I think you want to focus on the duck, so you could vignette this maybe. And that might help. Did you try
Absolutely.
a vignette? Because
No, I honestly didn't.
Oh,
But that doesn't
okay.
mean I can't.
There's another technique that one could try as well. If you're interested, I could show the class, if you will, how to actually get just that bright area toned down in Lightroom.
I think that might make
Sure.
really good because I
That'd be
think that would
wonderful.
help. That would really help this picture.
So let's go over to the develop mode real quick. So I'm going to bring out an adjustment brush. And I'm going to size it to be just a little bit bigger than the white area. And I'm just going to paint over this. And I'm going to turn on the area so that you can see what it is. I'm going to turn off auto mask because I don't want auto mask for this. So I'm deliberately painting a little bit larger than the area that I want to adjust. So you can see in the red what I've done, and I'm going to actually bring it over here as well. All right, so now I'm going to turn off my area so you can see where I've painted, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to bring down the exposure. And there are multiple ways you could try to adjust this. You can try the hue, intent, saturation. I'm going to start with exposure, just bring down the exposure a bit. So you can see how that starts to darken it and get it a little bit more close to the rest of the sticks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to overdo it, but just to show off. But you can see how doing that by itself, I got this dark halo around it now. So that's not what I want. Aha. I come down here to range mask. Go to luminance. And now I want the light areas, the bright areas under my brush to be affected by this. So now I'm just going to pull up the left side because this is the dark and this is the light. So I'm going to pull up the dark and I'm going to move it over to the light side until a lot of that halo goes away.
Very cool.
Wow.
So now we can continue to adjust this a little bit till we get the right balance. But I mean, you can see how it's, you just got to play with it to get the right effect that you want, the right balance of adjustments. This is where you could also, bring it a little more to the blue side. So anyway, just gives you an example of how you can do very targeted adjustments only on bright or dark areas of an image.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Very cool, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
Thanks, John.
Oh, that's not what I wanted. So now come back over to library mode. There we go. It's back in library mode. The only other thing that I thought of, so the eye is, it may not come across on Zoom very well, but these feathers back here, sharp as a razor. The eye is not quite in the same plane of focus. There are ways to help mitigate that a little bit. You could try sharpening it a little bit. Photoshop has some plugins like Topaz, Sharpen AI is a great tool for this because it's just outside the plane of focus. The other, and I love how you got it right after the duck came up, but his head's all wet, that nice shiny effect. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it does have that little bit of grass right there.
Yeah.
Oh, he was eating.
Got it. I know. So this is the age-old question, and I think I know where Christina's coming down based on an earlier comment. I would have experimented with cloning out that grass to see if I liked it better without it.
I can see that.
There is an argument to be made for it's documentary, it's nature. That's the way it was and I want to keep it as true to what it really was as possible. Nothing wrong with that argument, but I would have, since it is just that one and it's kind of
Right.
out of place, I would have tried to clone it out to see if it improved the image.
Okay.
And maybe it would work. I mean, I've certainly gone through the effort of cloning stuff out and cleaning it up, and it just didn't work. And I undid all of that with that work.
Mhm.
And the other thing, the duck is perfectly centered. And I'm not sure that
That's
works.
interesting. Yeah, I know. Yep.
I'm not sure that works for me. And where I'm going with that, I think it would, and it's not much of an adjustment, but if we, and I'll show you what I was talking about since I've got the power here. It's not much, but you can see my grid lines that I have on my default crop. And I set this up not in the rule of thirds, but actually in it's the golden
40,
ratio
40,
basically.
20.
It's 1.6 to 1.6. So what I would have done is pull this down just a little bit
Okay.
like this. So you can see where the head is. It's on one of these PowerPoints there. It's not on the rule of third PowerPoints. It's on the golden ratio PowerPoint.
Right.
But what this does, just that little bit of an adjustment, in my opinion, if we go ahead and click done on that, it gives a little bit more breathing space on in front of the duck than behind.
Okay.
So the duck is still going into the image, if you will. That would be the only other suggestion for my opinion on what would be an improvement. But I love how you got the wings. To your point, I when I first saw it, I was like, man, that's the only way you get to see that green, I'll bet. And you explained it. But yeah, I think this is another fine image.
Thank you.
And I'm going to undo my changes so that nobody accuses me of.
No, you can use mine as a teaching and manipulate any way you want.
All right, let me undo that again. Go back to library. And everybody, I hope you understand, these are my opinions. I don't make a living with photography. All right, next one. Any thoughts?
Do we know whose photo this is?
I do.
It's kind
What
of,
was that?
Are they
Are they on?
online?
What was the question?
Whose photo is this?
I was
Oh,
looking-
it's mine. It's mine. I didn't know whether I should say anything or just wait or what. I can tell you why I submitted this one. And that is, well, it's a surprising picture, but the raw, there were some decisions I had to make as far as like clarity and the temperature and how white and it kind of in my dealing with it, let's see, it broke into really kind of three major areas and doing different things and going for it was very hazy overall. This is from a ferry out on the way to Vancouver Island or back from Vancouver Island. And I actually shared this picture not clarified the way it is, and it looks like the mountain is just floating in the sky, because the hills that you can now see were pretty much obscured. And and I wasn't sure, like I did a number of things and it looked funny, and so I submitted this one because I struggled so much, and I don't even know whether I mean, yeah, so there you go.
Thoughts, anyone?
well, what I like is the just the different tones of blue and the kind of muted look. It almost sort of goes with the picture I liked at the beginning of Nikki's with the mushrooms. It's like I don't know, the colors aren't bright and don't jump out at you, but they're very sort of soothing, maybe is the word for it. Very nice.
The original was even bluer, and that was my struggle. Should I, I knew there were foothills because that mountain is, I don't know, 30, 40 miles inland, though I don't know if that's foreshortening. I mean, it looks, you would never know from looking at it how far it is from the actual coast. But anyway.
So I think this serves as a great example of how landscape with a telephoto lens is not only feasible, but can actually work very well, is this image here. So when I first saw it, my first question that popped into my mind was whether the photographer wanted the pastel effect, because it does have a very pastel blue feeling to it for me. And that could certainly be, the point, just a kind of like hazy, as you put it, just a nice hazy, beautiful image. That is an interpretation. My first instinct, though, is it's lacking contrast. And if it had a little bit more contrast and just a touch more saturation, maybe pull down a dehaze a little bit, it could really make that snow on that mountain pop and really draw you in, through the bay, the sound, whatever the body of water is. And then it would also help highlight that cloud layer, which to me, that layer of the clouds in there adds significant drama to this image. It shows just how tall this mountain is. So I think those a couple of minor touches, I think, would have helped improve it and made it more dramatic. But again, that would have been my interpretation. The pastel feel is another perfectly valid interpretation that anybody could put onto it as well.
Yeah, I'd like to say something. I like the way the image is layered. I think that you've done an excellent job of layering the image. The only thing I could suggest is that I think Tom mentioned it earlier. The sky, may have noise or grain in it. You might have been able to benefit from something like Topaz Denoise AI. I think it could have smoothed that out more.
Yeah, as Charles is mentioning, as we've all experienced, I'm sure, when the noise shows up in the blues before anything else, it seems.
Yeah, and it was a struggle between clarity and noise reduction, and contrast and the reality, how it actually looked from the ferry. And as I tried to bring out the cool stuff that was in there, it started looking unnatural. And I don't have the whole sort of photojournalism idea is fine. And I don't feel limited to that. We're making images for a variety of purposes. And yeah, I did I had the sky darker, I had it more saturated, this and that and the other, and I knew what it had started out looking like and what it looked like with my eyeballs, and that was the source of a lot of conflict with how it ended up.
Yeah, totally realize you gotta cope with a balancing act. If you boost clarity, it may cause more noise. Yeah, that's a tough thing that you gotta balance out to get the type of image that you desire. Totally understood, and I can see the problems that you might have went through doing that.
So this might be a good image to talk about. If you've not played around with DxO's new Pure Raw app, I would encourage it. It's a free download. You can try for 30 days for free. See if it's worth the $100 for you. I think it's 100 or thereabouts. But it does amazing work on removing noise and sharpening images. And it starts off with your raw, and it exports either as a JPEG or as a DNG. So if you export it as a DNG, of course, you get to keep all of the raw editing capability. I've run several of my images through it recently, and it was worth the price of admission for me. But yeah, it does a lot of, like, the noise that we were talking about up here in the blue, all gone, and the mountain would have been, sharpened. Anyway.
And by the way, that was not taken with the telephoto lens. I think I was using a 2470, and I started, I did a free transform and brought that thing into the editing space, way bigger than it was in the original. And that may have kind of magnified some of the, flaws in the original image.
It could have. It could have. But again, I mean, even if you're cropping it in and stuff, but this is, I think my earlier point about telephoto still stands, because if you're on the other side of a bay, for example, and you want to really isolate that mountain, at least with my cameras, the 2470 probably would not have been able to really drive home the size of that. I would have had to pull out my 200 to 500 or 70 to 200, but that's on my equipment. But anyway, and Charles, I think, hit it again, the layers that you've got with the water. You got the near beach, then you got that mid-range hill in front of the mountain. The layers, great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. Hey, that they were just there, I mean, that was part of the sort of striking, because I hadn't, it was like I kind of, whoa, geez, there's Baker. I climbed that mountain a long time ago, and it's inland a ways from Bellingham, Washington, and I was headed back to the mainland of Vancouver from Victoria on Vancouver Island, and there it was. I'd never, that is a view you can't, when you're on the land, it's out of sight, because I guess the foothills obscure it. And,
Yep. But yeah, true. You did not place all of these elements, but what you did do is capture it. So let's not diminish the fact that you were the one that had had your camera handy. You saw the image and you captured it. So well done.
Thank you.
Make sure I'm on the right application. Next image.
It's a lovely evening image.
Mm.
Where was that taken? Is the person online?
I'm not sure.
There's too much sticking up for it to be Venice, but Amalfi Coast.
Definitely looks to be that area, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, with the hills and the of course, yeah, I mean, that one famous, I don't know which little village it is, where all the houses are, painted with kind of vivid colors, and they're stacking up the hill, that very cool. These are much bigger buildings, but this is a great picture. I love the colors and stuff.
Looks like some kind of fortress up on the hill.
Yeah.
Which hill? This one?
Well, there's two, yeah, both of them actually. Maybe even all three of them.
Whose picture?
It's mine.
Okay.
It's mine.
So
So,
it's-
so I wasn't trying to be a smartass. I was just trying to see, just trying to get the conversation going. So this is actually Corfu, Greece. It is
Oh,
in the
it's
Adriatic. Yeah,
gorgeous.
yeah. This is the old fortress on the left and the new fortress on the right. Now the new fortress was built only in the 1500s.
Only.
Yeah, that's why it's the new one,
Yeah.
because
You got the old and the new there.
right, right. So the old one was built by, I wanted to say the Ottomans, but this predated the Ottomans. But anyway, the Venetians came in later, enhanced the old fortress, and then built the new fortress.
Mhm.
But yeah, yeah, this is a blue hour shot. Obviously, I was back on the ship at this point, and how do I capture this evening shot? The ship is on water, so it's not going to be perfectly steady.
Mhm.
So it's a handheld panorama. Just
Wow,
stitched it
Wow.
across and then
Well done.
went out.
gorgeous.
Mhm.
John, do you think if you had cut a little bit of the bottom and you had a little less water, you
Mm.
might have gotten a little more depth of field there?
So you're starting to get into why this image has never been submitted anywhere.
Aha!
Because I think you're right. I think you're right. And this is one of the things that I played with. So if we go over to the develop module, I struggled with, for example, making it even more of
A
a
panorama.
widescape, right? So I think
Yeah,
this would have, that would have helped.
yes.
Because who needs all that big sky at the top, and like you said, that water down at the bottom.
I
And
think that's really the picture.
it does strengthen the image. I
It
agree.
does.
Yeah, for sure. Did you up the purple? It was the blue hour, but you got kind of a purplish cast to it deliberately, or is that it?
No, that was the actual color that was there.
Wow.
Again, it was one of those evenings when because the sun's setting. If you're looking here, and if you go ahead and do the clock face, the sun was setting probably at about the 5 o'clock position from where I'm looking. And as it was going down, it was of course the nice pretty pinks, magentas, and then it went down to the purple as I was shooting. And this was the series of images that I think it was, I can't remember who it was first earlier that said this, but basically this is the one that worked best. Oh, I think it was Audrey that, with the Ospreys, you're there for a long time and you got one image. So I think this is the one that worked best from the series, but it had that purple. And I kind of liked it. I thought it worked. But
I
again,
I think this works. I think without all of that kind of sky that really you don't need and all of the bottom water that you don't need, I think this works very well as a panorama. And I think you've improved your depth of field significantly with this. So kudos. This is a nice shot.
thank you. What other comments?
The the left side there that's all lit up and that has very light values, and then you look to the other side and you have the fort in its brooding darkness. And I'm wondering, I don't know if you messed with trying to lighten some of that up so it wasn't like, sort of pulling. I'm looking at my brain, my eye, and it's like, because it's that heavy dark wise, it's sort of pulling things down, and I didn't know if you'd.
It adds an imbalance to the image. And again, this is another reason why I've not put it anywhere. I agree with you. This and the human eye is going to be give more weight, if you will, to the darker side typically than the bright. It'll be your eye is drawn to the bright.
Yeah.
But then, because you're looking over here to the left, and you got it out of the corner of your eye, you can see that big dark mass, and that kind of pulls it down a little
Yeah, it's
bit.
almost like gravity or something.
Yeah. And I agree with you. But again, this is another case where if I lighten this, even using the technique that I was demonstrating earlier, if I attempt to lighten this fortress, it it's not going to look correct. I actually did play with that a little bit. It's not
bet
going
you
to look
did.
right, and I couldn't get the balance to come out without drawing the attention to the fortress, because that's not really where, that wasn't really what I was trying to draw your attention to anyway. It was more about the cityscape and the general waterfront. But
Yeah.
again, these are reasons why I've never done anything more with this image, because while it's a great, to me, it's a great reminder of a very nice cruise that my wife and I went on.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not what I would consider to be portfolio quality image.
The left half, I don't know if you tried just going with the left half of the image, just from the left of the big, boat in the middle, but that could be a pretty striking picture, I mean, just like lose the fort completely, and going, taking out the boat that's, something like that.
Yeah, and so if we were to critique this image now I'm looking at it going, now I'm wondering what's, to me, all right, nice, you got an image of the old fortress, some of the waterfront, but I'm missing something on the right side.
Yeah, but
the boats add a lot to the picture for the foreground.
Yeah, they do. And once you stick that one boat in, the fort's already there, unless, I don't know, you try to clone. Yeah, but you had also, cut it down. I don't know whether having some sky and those clouds and, not as much water, I don't know, that there was, it kills me when I have, see something that looks really great and then can't turn it into an actual, whole image that has its own sort of coherence, and
Yeah,
that left-hand side is just fabulous. And don't know quite what to...
and that is something that I struggle with frequently, and my wife has heard me say it many times, and she's like, aren't you going to take a picture? There's a beautiful scene, beautiful subject. And the answer is no. It's going to work much better as a mental image than anything that my camera will be able to capture, because sometimes I just can't make the elements work on the sensor.
The only good news I have in that regard, when I see something really cool and I take a picture of it and then I, look at what showed up and it's like, well, where is it? Where'd it go? Sometimes my camera sees things that I don't see. So,
True. True. All right. We'll go on to the next one.
So I'm gonna sound like who's a judge speaker that we've had a few times on Rossberg. Really nice image, but it needs a deer or a bear or something coming through the scene.
How about a little horse over here?
A little horse, that would be great. Yeah, but it's really nice. I love those colors. It's just gorgeous. A nice haze to just make the sun not too blinding. Really nice.
Yeah, it's got, mystery and ambiguity to it
Yeah.
due to the fog. And I don't know if this is sort of a, aesthetic philosophy approach question, but, is there something missing? Do we need the object over on the line? No, I don't necessarily, it's more abstract in this, execution of it. And it almost, that the space on the, on the left there is almost like space for thought to occur, appear, provoked. I don't know. I like it.
my first reaction to this, my first word was ethereal. It looks ethereal.
Sure, yeah.
And it would be, you could almost add like a biblical verse or some wise saying along the bottom in the dark area. It'd make a great poster.
So what if somehow there was if this right tree were not there and it was just this one all by itself,
Perfect. Mhm.
right? I think that would have sold this image like nobody's business, in my opinion. But this one was also mine.
Yeah, I was thinking something similar to the previous picture where that fortress on the right weighted the image too far on the right. It's got the same thing here.
Ghost of the fortress.
And I actually just kind of played with it. If you cropped in from the left a little bit, then even though the sun is bright, it's closer to the edge that helps to balance it with the weight, the dark mass on the right.
Yeah, that's nice. You don't need all the grass in the front. That's nice.
Yep, John, it's unfortunate, but odd numbers of things in pictures seem to work. One tree or three trees, but somehow two trees, unless they're doing
Well,
something
but there's two
interesting
trees
together.
in the sun.
Well,
Well,
But-
Audrey's got a point, and that was another challenge with this image. I
Yeah.
agree. And unfortunately, what was to the right of that was a road and a fence.
oh no.
So I couldn't get separation there. So I tried to. What you saw with the original was my attempt to actually balance it out. Yeah, so I've got that's why I left the large area of grass at the bottom. I thought that would help anchor the image. And then you've got that on the right hand side, you've got the massive trees that would hopefully help balance out the sun a little bit. But I couldn't make it work. I agree with the cropping idea was a good one. It does, help balance it a little bit more. But again, there's only so much polish I can put onto this.
Well, did you take a look at cropping and to just have the one tree? I mean, did you?
But again, the challenge with that, so yes, I did. And the challenge that I had with that is that it still runs to the edge of the frame.
Yeah.
And so it takes your eye out. And that's where I just said, you know what? I'm going to leave it like this. I'm going to take what I can from these rays coming across, help sell the misty ethereal look, I think that Tom mentioned earlier. Put a good enough stamp on it and it will stay here in my library, but not in my portfolio.
So,
John,
go ahead.
no, John, what if you clone the tree and put it in front?
I attempted to take this one out.
No, but I'm saying, what if you clone the one that's that's more in focus and put it in front of so that you actually had three? Did you try that?
No.
Cloning the tree, you need the
Yeah.
whole tree.
Well, basically, what I think I hear Audrey getting at was basically taking this tree and moving it
Yes.
away to add that little separation.
Mhm.
I had not tried that, and my challenge with that is my Photoshop skills are not good enough to be able to create this right edge to the tree
Oh, okay.
and sell it.
Yeah, but I believe me. I mean, sometimes when you start to fix something in the background, and I get lost in a major project of trying to make something look believable, but
it's the illusion.
Making an edge there is
Yeah.
not impossible.
No, it's just beyond my current skill level. But yes, you're right. A more advanced Photoshop person could probably pull that off and sell the illusion. Unfortunately, it's just not me. I'm just not that good yet.
It's still a great shot. It's a beautiful morning shot or an evening shot.
Actually, morning.
Morning, yeah.
This is above.
It's lovely.
It's White's Ford. No, not White's Ford. Oh man, it's upstream from White's Ferry. Anyway, it's up that way.
But this side of Point of Rocks.
Yes. It'll come to me right after we hang up the call. Then I'll remember it. Actually, hang on a second. I might.
Where they have that that maze thing at Halloween.
No, you're thinking of
Temple
Temple
Hall.
Hall Farm. Yeah, it's north of Temple Hall Farm. There was part of Lee's Army crossed there. Anyway, there's a little park there. People go fishing at it. Maybe I'll see it here. Where is it? Oh, bring this up. Oh well, it's not worth going back. But anyway, like I said, I'll think of the place later when it doesn't matter. Anything else?
Wow, it's a great sky.
Yeah, dramatic sky.
Rain coming off in the distance. The light on it, wow. Need the bar not to be cut off,
Mm.
but that was great. The moment.
What else?
I might even just lose the barn. I
Mm.
mean, the sky and the field of so much going on that
Mhm.
barn isn't really adding to me. It's more distracting. I'd leave I would leave the height of the image and just reduce the width, because the clouds are, the sky is really the sort of star of the picture, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks good.
That also brings that light area more into one of the thirds. Yeah, right in there, which I think helps.
So what about this foreground? Yeah, they got these lines that kind of. I don't know.
John, that right line, it's leading you right out of the picture.
Yeah,
I might
basically
actually-
it sets up a triangle down here in the corner, right?
Yeah, you might want to. I mean, that would be an area where I would probably have cloned it out.
Yeah,
cropped it
or
out.
just bring in some
Copy
of
and
this
paste,
grass
clone. Yeah,
over here.
right. Obscure.
Do
Yeah.
a clone stamp. Yeah.
And the little flowers in the foreground, yeah, there, you could clone that out too. That to me catches my eye much more than the grass does, because it's, what little white objects that are not in the vertical kind of grain of the grass.
Right,
Yeah.
because I would have Photoshop cloned the white flowers and just kept duplicating them all the way through so that the
Oh.
bottom was all white flowers. But that's me,
Yeah, that would be good.
Well, you can do some.
Foreground.
Yeah, and you can do some interesting things with like doing a clone stamp and then rotating the brush,
Hmm.
or even reversing the brush, and then so it's not an obvious copy of those flowers from place to place. Those are good ideas. So
Who's the owner of this one?
I'm torn here. I mean, because I agree that sky is incredibly dramatic, but I'm wondering if we cropped it down a little more, would we really lose anything? And to me, I don't know. I go back and forth when I'm looking at this. on the one hand, this I think really draws your attention into the real action area of it. But I also appreciate, having that sky also shows you just how massive the storm really is.
Yep. John, can I make a suggestion? I think if this was in black and white, this might be just as dramatic. Now maybe push the contrast up a little bit there. Yeah.
All right, let's try a little bit more clarity. How about that?
Yeah.
There we go.
I mean, to me, these almost speak to some extent to monochrome images. Just if you really love the sky, I think when you do the black and white image, I think the sky really pops and can make it more of a story, because sometimes the color can distract just as much as it can impact. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
it's
agree.
just
The black
another
and white
way.
looks, the black and white is a big improvement. The green and blue together kind of bothered me. I mean, there was a lot of cool stuff happening, but I think the black and white is much better.
Yeah. Again, it's a taste thing.
Any other comments?
Nice picture. Great picture.
And is that another John Tabor picture?
I'm not saying.
I think you just did.
This was a failure. This was a failure on multiple fronts, actually. The mission was a failure. The mission was to go out to the bridge at Lovettsville and get a shot of the sun setting directly in line. If you've ever been on that bridge that goes into Brunswick, at a certain time of year, the sun sets in the gap. There's a little notch you got the river going off into the west, and there's the river kind of curves into the hills. The hills create a notch, and the sun sets right in that notch. That was my mission. And Mother Nature threw all these storms up. So you make lemonade. But yeah, I struggled with this. I loved the drama. You guys caught every one of the failures in this image. The barn, first of all, it was not really all that photogenic of a barn to start with. I couldn't get it completely in the image because again, much like the other image we were talking about, there's too much stuff on the right. It wouldn't separate. I try cropping it. Yeah, it does improve it. Still not enough to put it in my portfolio.
I like the
John,
black.
what did you think of the black and white?
I do agree, and I did play with it in black and white. To me, it lost a little bit of the drama that the grays and blues brought back into the sky.
Yes.
So I left it as color, but again, I knew this wasn't going to go in my portfolio, so I just reached a point that says, all right, it's good enough to stay in my library. I'll just keep it there and just remind myself of a nice evening. And everywhere I looked, it was drama in the skies. But the problem, as all of us on the East Coast knows, the problem with these awesome dramatic skies is that frequently it's very difficult for us to get in a place where we can actually see it. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the fact that I was driving back home, happened to see this turn off where I could quickly get to this big open field was serendipity, quite frankly. So that's what allowed me to get over there and get this image. I was hoping that the hay bales may add a little bit of a farm feel to it. They're just not prominent enough, and I couldn't do anything with that. So, but you guys hit all of the issues that I had with this as well. So you guys are going to be judges by the time we're done with this.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That is.
Little wildflowers.
Mm-hmm.
I like the bokeh. It looks the best.
And the detail in the lower flower that is sharp. A great, I was going to say contrast. I don't mean that literally, but from the background.
I like the way the flowers are staged as they go back. You got the one in focus, then less focus, less focus.
Yeah.
Focus.
Sorry.
The challenge for me, and you guys are bringing up some really good points. The challenge for me is that I wish there was a little more separation between this flower in the front and this one directly behind it. Yeah, it's just
Dark in that area.
yeah,
That's harder than that's hard because of where it is.
yeah.
To go around it, it's going to be really tough. I've
Yeah.
tried to do that before. The other thing, I guess, and maybe this is just me as someone who loves flower photography, the square crop doesn't work, I don't think. I think flowers are not in portrait, just don't work as well as they do in a landscape. So I think it's going to need to get changed so that it looks weird to me. So, but yeah, this one's going to be hard.
Can anyone name what the flower this is? Any clues?
Dianthus.
Oh.
Say
Diane?
again. Say again
Huh?
in English.
Well, the beautiful thing about scientific names is, you know, if I call it Granny's grunion and somebody said, no, that's, you know, a cow's cud. And it's like, what are we all talking about? Well, you know, Dianthus, there you go. I think it is Dianthus, and I'm trying to remember what the heck the common name is. Shouldn't be too
Yep.
hard.
Yep. And I guess the other thing, which I guess I'm just seeing, is that the top of the flower is in focus and the bottom is not. So this would have been a case where maybe focus stacking or combining your image probably would have been good, because I mean, usually you get the center of the flower in focus and then bokeh out. It just, I mean, I guess this comes down to taste, you know.
So what is Dianthus? I'm not familiar with that one.
I have to go jump on Wikipedia or something and
Dianthus. There we go. Oh, it's a genus of about 300 species.
there you go.
Goodness gracious.
Dianthus caryophyllus. Yeah, let's see, there's a bunch of them. And what are they? Flowering plants. Yeah, wonderful. Yes, yeah, flowers.
Okay.
There you
But before you go, I don't know if it's just me, but does anybody else find that green stem distracting? I keep looking.
Rather.
I was thinking the same thing, and also kind of the pink buds right behind it. You might try to crop that out, yeah, or clone that out, I should say.
Well, all right. So let's experiment with
I noticed that green stem, and of course, I'm a sucker for color. I love the color of it, especially with the deeper green behind it and the blue and sort of this yellowy green. I like it.
What's the general consensus? The original or that
I
crop?
like it. There's the vertical.
Yeah.
Getting rid of the.
Ditto.
Yeah, I like that. I would just tone down the bright green. Yeah, right in there.
And you could even like take the highlights down a little on the main, you know, lower flower.
Yeah.
Maybe get a little more
The other one.
clarity, definition. Yeah.
And it's funny, I would have cropped it the other way. I would have cropped it landscape.
Yeah,
Oh.
you mentioned landscape earlier.
Yeah, I would have cropped it landscape and brought that down.
And
to just
Yeah,
that flower.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
So that the flower was spaced within the, and then just brought that little bit down. But that to me is more of a garden, you know. because the flowers are not tall. They're not sunflowers where they're up. So, but this is just style and not.
I think either of them works. This one definitely isolates this flower more and helps with that issue that I was talking about with the
Separation,
flower.
right?
Separation.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps with that. So
I think if you crop now from the right to right between those two
Yep.
blurred flowers,
Yeah.
then you get rid of that green stem and
Yep.
yeah.
And that's probably and that to me is, I think that's what you saw. And I mean, again, it's about, if what you were trying to represent was this one beautiful flower in the garden, I think that would be, that would be how I would have edited it. But
all good input.
yeah.
Any other comments?
We could try the vertical. That's cute.
It's sweet.
Now, I don't think this one should be a landscape shot.
No.
Who's he talking to? You talking to me?
Little critters.
I'd crop it in more so that he actually stood out more. You see more of him in the frame.
Yeah, I might take out the tree to the right.
I don't know quite what it was with the tree in the sort of foreground. I don't know. I guess it gives it sort of more of a tunnel perspective or something.
Yeah, I see where you're headed with that, because I think having that tree in there helps reinforce the leading line of the path a little bit for me.
Yeah,
And
it's a nice frame within the frame.
yeah, I mean, it's dark, and then the kid's face is highlighted on the right, and they're sort of facing each other. I don't know. And it sort of echoes the vertical directly behind him too.
The challenge, I think this illustrates a challenge all of us who have taken photos in the woods have faced, and that's dappled light. And this highlight down here, and a little bit on on some of these leaves, and even on the child's face and top of his head. I think the photographer could have done a better job with managing those highlights and really elevated this image a little bit more. I mean, it's a fine snapshot, and I love the mood of the kid looking over the edge of what looks to be the edge of a cliff here. I hope it's not with a young child like that, but that to me, I think, is really the biggest challenge with this image, is that managing the highlights and the dappled light.
Well, it's not hard to, that is a little blown out in the foreground, and darkening that. I mean, I spend a lot of my time running around fixing little bits on pictures as I'm trying to bring them, up to snuff. And
when you first put that image up, I looked at it as a human interest, photojournalistic shot, and
yeah,
kind of threw away all the other things as far as, something being too light, too dark, or something like that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
true enough, yeah, it is a snapshot, but that's what photojournalistic thing is about, to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the human expression is the subject. The gestures, his body language. It's
Exactly.
bam.
It's like, what's over there? And to Charles's point, you got your camera, you got it handy, but you got the settings that are on the camera, and when the moment strikes, capture the image, right? I mean, capturing that image is the most important thing, no matter the technical imperfections that may be there.
I do like that the photographer is at the level that the kid is, and
Yeah.
they're not shooting down. I think that it's important when you shoot kids or dogs that you are at their level and not making them look small in the picture. So that kudos to the photographer for getting the right perspective.
They must have watched Stand By Me, the
Mhm.
Rob Reiner movie, which was shot at kids' level.
Interesting shot. Anything else?
Whose picture?
That's my youngest grandson.
Yeah, I figured.
Oh,
I was going to let it go, but I'll claim
Well,
credit for
your
it.
silence spoke volumes, you know.
I'm not going to call out the photographers. And yes, it was a gentle hill behind him. So no, I did not put him on the edge of a cliff. But the perspective, I thought it made it look more dangerous and more dramatic. That's the last of our images. So we can do here.
Did we do Tim? Was I asleep?
Say again?
I thought there were a few more in the folder. I thought Tim put a couple in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put a couple in this afternoon, probably after you
I added
downloaded them.
a couple this evening. I guess it was too late.
Oh, it's never.
Hold on. We got them. If we got them, we got them.
Yeah, I see, let's see, that's 6, 12, I see 16.
There we go.
There we go.
So you guys were late to join the party.
Yeah, slouches.
They were busy on the merry-go-round.
I love it. It's like, what are they looking at? All three of them got their attention. Something.
This was an also ran for the nighttime photography.
Oh,
I like the expression on little girls' faces, but I couldn't get them bright enough and without having the lights blown out even more in the back. And I don't know how to, I'm sure some of you experts could have done that, but I can't.
Yeah, these can be challenging. And another thing with night shots and settings like this, for me, are a couple of things. The first challenge that I find is when you're looking at white balance in general,
Right.
is especially when you're in situations like this with different color lights. So which is the correct white? And if I balance it for this white, this light, the predominant tungsten style light, it's going to, this other, CFL daylight balance light's going to be all too blue, for example. So it's always a challenge for me to get the right white balance. I agree with you that, the raising it up a little bit so we can get a better view on the faces, would definitely blow out those lights even more. But my first reaction would be, who cares? They're not the subject. Getting back to Charles's point earlier, I mean, we're really going to be focused on the human faces. Probably not going to care so much about how much these lights are going to be blown out. But my concern there would be if we raise that exposure, how much noise are we going to bring into the image? And even so, even if we did bring in noise, would it matter?
Maybe not.
I was surprised to find in the raw editor in Photoshop that when I clicked on for white balance and hit auto, some things, it was like, wow, what do you know? Because my camera, a lot of times it sees things bluer than whatever the algorithm is built into that software. I don't know. So it had some interesting effects that, well, of course, there's what is it, auto and daylight, and, you know, although I haven't messed with all of them, but that was one way to skin that cat. I don't know.
Give me just a second. I'm gonna pull these down and add them to Lightroom real quick. So here, for example, if we were to try the auto, and I play with that from time to time. I mean, it really didn't change the overall tone very much.
No.
I mean, it not what hang on.
What are your other options?
I hit the wrong auto, sorry. There's the auto white
There,
balance.
see, that's so, I mean, it's a lot bluer, but it looks a lot more like our eyeballs would see it.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, see, this is where I think it made it too blue. I would probably turn it down a little bit more to the yellow.
Yeah, but then, you know, I don't know if you've noticed when you look at a color and then you look at some more colors and then you come back, how looking at colors can change my perception
Oh, yeah.
of looking at color.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so I don't know whether, you know, we've been looking at this picture as it was presented until moments ago when I first saw it, and it did look bluer. Yeah,
right.
This is warm. I like the kind of level of warmth without, you know, having everything looking tungsten tinted.
Well, see, and that's,
the blue looks better. The blue looks a lot better than the original.
well, it does. But see, this is where, all right, so you guys probably figured out I am a bit of a technical photographer, if you will. You know, it's about the technical correctness of the image. And I have struggled to train myself to look for the emotion, look for the mood. And I score very low on the empathy list, so moods don't really matter to me. But personally, but anyway, the point that I'm driving at is that while we could tune this image to get the perfect white balance, and by perfect, I mean anything that was supposed to be pure white is pure white, you know, just to pick on this spot right here on this eyeglass, for example, that's probably as close to the correct white balance as we could probably get to. But to me, it kind of ruins a little bit of that mood. And I'm thinking that's where that a little bit of that warmth brought back into it would help improve the image a bit. You know, it improves the skin tone some. And again, you know, I think Tom was talking about earlier the way it looked. I mean, we show up and even our natural white balance, this is still going to look like a yellow light to us standing there at the carousel. But you know, I mean, these are nits here. I mean, this is it's a great capture. You can hear the sounds, you can feel the energy of these young kids as they're enjoying this ride on this merry-go-round or this carousel. I mean, it's a great capture of the mood.
Well, I don't know who these kids are, and I hope the parents didn't mind me snapping the pictures, but I really love the little girl on the upper right who seems a little nervous about being on the merry-go-round, and she's looking to her mom or dad, is this okay?
Yep. I'm just playing around with noise reduction a little bit, see how much of that is a problem, but yeah, nice image. Exploration of color.
Yeah.
This is the children's wing of the UVA hospital down in Charlottesville, and I just love the colors. It was also ran in one of the architectural competitions because I tried all sorts of ways to get the vertical lines straight, or, you know, is it better at an angle? When I did the correction to try to transform, I guess, made things too wide, and so
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, because you're going to run out of space with all of the perfectly straight lines.
yeah.
It's just going to distort it beyond reason. So frankly, personally, I kind of like that angle. To me, that's like me standing there in front of the building, looking
Yeah.
up at it. So to me, those lines in this particular instance, and normally I agree with you. Normally I do try to get those architectural verticals absolutely straight. I think it works here.
Well, because it's not about the straight lines, is it? I mean, it's about really about the color, but I also like the container that the color comes in as well. And it's more kind of the pattern and almost texture of that than it is the lines being correctly horizontal and vertical.
Now, another thing that I have played with on similar architectural shots is straightening partway. So for example, you saw me doing the guided uprights, for example, where you just draw it and you get the perfect line. But sometimes it's okay to straighten it some, but not all the way. So you still got a little bit of that angle. It's still not going to work here. This is not going to be.
That's almost believable. No, I see. I think.
Yeah, it distorts this corner too much still.
Well,
but I was doing that just to illustrate the point that using the guided uprights, it doesn't have to make it perfectly straight. Use it to fit what is your artistic vision for that image.
Well, it's a really cool building and a fun building for kids to see.
My only significant technical critique is all of this up here.
For sure.
Yeah, it's relatively easy to crop these or to clone these out even in Lightroom. So anyway, you can see how I'm playing with that. I think if I clone that out,
yeah, gives it a cleaner line too.
I think that would sell the image. That alone, I think, strengthens the image significantly.
Yeah, I probably should have captured the left side of the building. I cut that off a little bit. I should have. You've almost added it back in there.
Or you know what? Own it. It's really about the color, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I was thinking if you could go back and capture just that left side of the building, kind of like right where that line is in the middle of the building, to the left of that. So John, a little over to the right. Go, yeah, a little bit more to the right. Yeah, kind of like there. You started there and did like a portrait image, maybe moving back and to the right from where you took the picture, because that focuses on the color, which is, I think, the key point that you're trying to make in the image, and remove some of the other distractions.
Yeah, that's a cool looking image too.
Though in portrait mode now, it's really accentuating, the tiltedness of it, and I would want to be messing with it to try to get it. Yeah, I mean, if you don't have to, yeah. I mean, I'd be doing transform, skew, and all that to try to make it, look.
Yeah,
but then I love the green across the bottom.
Yeah.
In the bottom windows there, that green with the. Yeah, that keeps some of that too. Yeah.
Maybe I could have moved over to the right a little bit and got a straighter image.
Well, maybe, but see, this is, if I'm guessing that may have been a challenge, because moving over to the right may have put all of these trees squarely in front of what you're trying to capture.
Yeah, it would have. That's true.
So, I mean, this again is highlighting the compromises that we frequently have to make when we're out taking our images.
Yeah, I like the L of color,
The yellow color you said?
the L of color, the
Oh.
down and then the over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it
yeah.
doesn't have to be the same ratio, but when you get down and over and you got a tree, that makes it interesting.
Well, I go back to Charlottesville quite often to that hospital, so I always have it in mind that I'm gonna stick around till evening sometime at that time of year and try it again.
Yeah, now you got leaves as a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. For
But
sure.
yeah, that's
I think if I was going to shoot this, I'd probably wait until nightfall if possible and shoot this on a dark background. I think the colors would pop if this was on a very dark night.
Maybe so.
so. This one, all right, getting really technical here. This is one. If you're going to go through the effort of going back down there, and I'm sure that there's a reason you're going down, and sometimes that's going to dictate schedules. And when I say schedules, the amount of time that you're able to spend here. But this might be an image where you could do exposure bracketing. And the idea there would be to manage the highlights in the bright lights, both of the interior as well as the sign on the building. But you can highlight for all those different levels of light and blend it all together in Photoshop to get just the right amount of detail in all of those areas.
Yeah, that's something to try for sure.
Or you could do a mild HDR.
Yeah, that's generally the effect of the exposure blending is effectively HDR, but obviously we're not talking about the
Composite HDR, yeah.
yeah, obviously we're not talking about the grungy HDR effect. Anyway,
Right.
I agree with you, Tom. This is an interesting subject. Really nice play on color here. All right, where are we here? I'm going to guess by the signature. This is yours, Tim.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was doing it quickly. The last two are both mine.
Pinks and greens.
Very pretty.
Nice.
So I guess someone would say this should be in a landscape instead of a portrait, but I kind of like in a portrait.
This is one where I think the portrait reinforces the lines of the flower. You got the tulip leaves coming up beside the bud. You got the vertical stalk. So I think the portrait actually reinforces that personally. The question I'm going to ask the group is, do we think it would have been stronger if the tip of this leaf were in the frame?
Yes.
Yes, because it's cutting off the very top of the tip. So yeah, if it was more deliberate, more off, then it'd be okay. But it's like the very tip. So yeah, just a little breathing room.
Yeah, I just saw that myself, and I looked at my raw image, and I don't have the option to do that. Should have captured it differently.
Well, this is a trick that I try to use on mine sometimes when I make that minor error is own it. So what I mean by that is, all right, let's not try to hide it. Let's keep some of the same ratios perhaps, but go ahead and make it more obvious that I wanted to do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
As an example.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
We're all guilty of it. You always hear, "Oh, check, the frame of the frame and anything creeping in," or which
Yeah.
I always do. And then you get home and think, "Oh crap."
Well, I actually
all the time.
That looks good. We're even up closer to the pretty pink pull-up.
I kind of like the version even with the tip cut off, because those two vertical stalks or leaves or whatever are really part of the drama of the image. It's not just the flower, but it's those two elements.
Well, who was it earlier that was talking about the framing? You know, they do kind of frame that the
Mhm.
tulip bud.
Nice bokeh in the background. Yeah.
Anything else? Come on, guys, this is our chance to roast Tim.
I think I would have, the lighter parts of the flower facing us, I think I might have dropped the highlights a little bit. Yeah, that general idea.
Basically to increase the saturation a tad by making it darker.
Yeah, pulling down the highlights, bringing out a little more detail in that petal. The challenge there, yeah, I agree with you. It definitely pulls out that detail. I think it darkens it a little bit, and that now what I'm tempted to do is balance that, by bringing in a little bit more exposure to that a little bit, which kind of undoes the edit about the detail. So again, it's all about compromises and what compromises we want.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, this is another shot. And Tim, obviously, we're being nitpicky as hell on this image, trying to make you feel bad. I hope it's working. But it's a great image. I mean, this is another one. You captured nature in a really good spot. I love the water, and I'm pretty darn sure that's not glycerin drops you put on there. So another well spotted image here.
No, that was actually my side yard, and I believe that was actually rain. There were some flowers I did that I took a spritz water out and wetted them down, but no, it's not, definitely not glycerin.
Shameless.
I love that little dot on the left. I mean, the water droplet on the left.
Yeah.
I love that.
Pulls your eye over.
Say again, Fred.
It pulls your eye over.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely
It's
helps.
a visual action.
Yeah. All right.
Wow, almost like that bubble on the left.
Thoughts?
Well, that lantern is an interesting element. Was that just placed there? Or is that one of the lanterns in your yard or permanently on the wall?
No, that was just placed there. I had seen pictures with lanterns and woods or flowers, and I thought that kind of was an interesting idea. And this was my first attempt at trying to do something with that. I'm not sure it works, which is kind of why I threw it out into this pool.
I'm trying to make the lantern properly, fully vertical. It looks like it's tilted a little bit to the right, and
Rotate
so that's-
counterclockwise.
huh?
Rotate counterclockwise a bit.
Yeah, exactly. And then
Oh, there.
Yes, good.
So if you do that, then the wall's not straight. So it's a compromise between, do I have the wall straight or the lantern straight?
wall
Yeah,
straight.
True.
Well,
And
I
I
don't
chose
have
the
a-
wall, but
I don't have
Right.
a problem with that. It looks, I mean,
So
is the wall perfectly vertical? I don't have a problem with the rocks coming out. I mean, and it's the way it's going away to the right. To me, it's harder to judge.
again, we were talking about illusions earlier, for example. Here, the leaves help hide the fact that this far edge of the wall is not straight up and down vertical. And oh, by the way, it's a little bit of an uneven rock wall to begin with. So who's to say that this wasn't actually vertical? Tim, you're absolutely right. You were there, this isn't perfectly level. But this is illustrating the point that I have to remind myself of frequently. It's not about the technical perfection of the artifacts. The off-kilter lantern is probably going to be much more noticeable than the off-kilter wall.
I agree. Yeah, especially since my new camera has this nice level on it, electronic level. It's,
Sometimes I have to ignore that. Am I mistaken, or is there a little bit of enhancement of the yellow light of the lantern in the area?
Yes. So this actually was a blend of two exposures where I took a lower exposed image of the just the bulb of the lantern and kind of painted it in, so to speak, or just masked it out, I should say.
So I agree. I like the effect. It's, so I think that was a good idea. I'm curious. No, invert. I'm doing an experiment here, guys. So I'm adding a little bit of light in that area. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the range mask and try to bring it into just the highlights. I don't want to bring too much light into the shadows. So this is me just playing around with the idea.
John, do you want to darken everything that's outside that circle a little bit?
I'm going to add another vignette to it.
Yeah.
I see where you're going with that. So what I was looking to do is I was experimenting to see if I added a little bit of yellow light to the highlights around this, would it help amplify the lantern effect, so to speak?
I like that idea. That's great.
And then another vignette, Audrey, was inside my head. This one's going to be a little bit larger, and I'm going to leave that to the outside and darken that a little bit. Now, obviously, if I were looking to do this for, submission or portfolio, whatever, you could play around with that. But it gives an idea of some of the playing around that I do from time to time. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I like that. Very good. Thank you.
That's what we started with, and just playing around with that.
Well, that gives a glow.
Right. But this is another one. I like that pop of pink. The lantern idea, I think, is a fantastic, element of interest to bring into the image. And the stone wall, great leading line, pulls you right into it, and you can just imagine walking down the path. Now, are these azaleas?
Thank you.
Is that an azalea, or what is that?
They look like azaleas.
I'm not really good at flowers. I knew the other one was tulips. I think this is azaleas.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I think they are. What was throwing me off was the leaves, but yeah, I think that's azalea.
Mm-hmm.
I was waiting for Jack to give me the Latin name.
I think azalea is the genus name for that. Azalea familiaris. I don't know.
All right, guys, it's coming up on 9 o'clock. You want to keep playing, or are we done?
John, this has been very instructive with you being able to manipulate this stuff so we can see how things could be changed.
Yeah, and please, my edits that's my interpretation. I mean, you guys were giving me some ideas on some of these edits, but I hope you understand that this is just to illustrate the techniques that you can apply to basically develop and present your own art and your own vision. So this is not, you got to do it this way. So I hope you understand that.
Yeah, but seeing it actually done in front of us, I think conveys information in a way that talking about it does not. So I think using that as a tool for, subsequent meetings, presentations be a good idea.
Yeah,
So,
I
go-
enjoyed watching your editing, John.
oh, thank you. So do we like this format? I mean, we've done this, I think this is the second or third time we've done the, the group review critique idea. Do we like the format?
Yes, yeah, very
I
good.
like hearing other people's opinions and approaches and critiques and so forth. I think it's good stuff.
Yep,
Yeah, I
John
like
and-
it. I'm kicking myself for not submitting some images as well.
Me too.
Well,
Yep.
we were happy to have you here, Charles, regardless. Good to see you.
Next time.
So, if we were to do these on a recurring basis, is that something we would want? We thinking twice a year, summertime fill in the gap type meetings? What are we thinking here?
That sounds good.
Yeah,
That does sound great. Because there are some images you just get stuck on and you think it's a good image, but you're not sure how to fix it. And I mean, I must have struggled with that image for an hour and a half. I knew it was a good image, but how do you take it to the next level? Or how do you fix it? And rather than struggling by yourself, it's really nice to have a group to kind of bounce things off.
Bounce ideas off of. Yeah, I like that thought. I mean,
let's
just
do it
to-
again.
Once a season instead of once a year. I mean, twice a year, 4 times a year, once a season.
Oh, yeah, like once a quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah, once a quarter would be probably, I
Good.
think, a good frequency.
This would be a good ritual for us to have.
Okay.
Good idea.
Well, folks, I think it's been a great participatory meeting tonight. You guys have been, you're forthcoming with your opinions, which I think is really the value that this type of setting brings, is everybody brings their own perspectives, and hopefully we take away some new ideas, new interpretations of imagery here.
John, somebody from iPhone said they wanted us
Yeah.
to look
Yeah,
at the
there's a-
picture.
Say again, Fred?
Somebody from iPhone said they wanted us to look at their picture.
At
Okay.
8:57, there's a chat.
All right. Hold on a second. I did have chat up. I thought I
If
had
they
chat
go
up.
to their upper right, they can change the name. Upper right of their screen, they can change their name. So it doesn't say iPhone. Say iPhone.
Yeah. Can you guys see me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Yes, we can. Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I have to upload these in advance. This is Abhishek Gautam, and I can go ahead and change that name. But I uploaded. I just want you to. I mean, these are very basic images, and I've learned so much from you guys that I'm fully inspired. But if somebody can have a look at one of those pictures and just
Sure.
Where did you upload them?
Where did you upload them? I uploaded on Meetup.
Oh,
Ah,
meat.
Okay,
Oh, meat.
that's okay.
That's okay. And I apologize. I probably do a better job next
Studio
time.
151.
Studio 151.
It's on the loud meetup. It's on the loud meetup.
Yeah,
got the-
those are the pictures.
I saw these.
I'm going to tell you, I struggle with dandelions, and this is a pretty well executed version. And what I struggle with
and what I struggle with is
you got this nice.
iPhone 8 is my iPhone 8 is my phone.
Say again, Fred.
Say again, Fred.
It's the feedback on need to turn the mic off.
So what I struggle with is getting the entire seed pod in focus, from the very front all the way to the very back, while still having that nice bokeh in the background. So well done on that front, capturing this.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Anybody?
I think, I mean, for me, when you're doing flowers, I think it looks a little strange, and it looks like the right side of the flower is a little bit cut off. I would leave just a little bit of space around the flower, because I think you don't want people to think that you did an unintentional crop on one side or the other. So I would just give like even a hair of space around whatever flower you want. But that's just me.
I don't know if you can do this.
Sure, that's a good suggestion.
I don't know if you can do this on an iPhone where the background could be more blurred, because I think maybe there's a little too much detail. In other words, it could be more bokeh, but I don't know if an iPhone would allow that. I don't know if you can change the aperture.
Yeah, I think that's a difficult subject for the, camera components in the iPhone. I mean, what the cameras in phones these days are amazing compared to what they used to be, but that's still, given the distance, I mean, it's sort of a macro shot, and you could be using a specialized expensive lens on an SLR to take that and still have it be a challenge. So I think the subject for an iPhone is definitely a challenge.
Yeah, I would say I agree with what John was saying. The depth of field of this is amazing. And it looks to me like it might have been taken towards the middle of the day, just based on the light. And so maybe if you did it more in the evening or in the morning, then the light on the ground would not be so bright. And if you could, in an ideal world, if the sun was coming across the dandelion seeds, I think that would create some nice side lighting that would really accent the image and the texture. I've been wanting to try and do one of these for a while. I just never gotten around to it.
Yeah, thank you. That's all great feedback. And I do a lot of hiking, and knowing what I've learned now, I think I'm going to start carrying a better and better equipment. I do have a camera which I can carry, and but the idea is to learn the whole art of whatever photography and composing. And what I've learned today is just phenomenal. I've learned so much from you guys. Thank you. And there was one more photograph. I just want you guys, because the way you are looking at a photograph is, I'm loving it. You're just picking up so many finer points. There's one more photograph I did, and these were just selected randomly, if I may say, of the kind of photographs I do.
So this one, I think this is a great abstract. I really like the intersecting patterns. So you've got, you got ripples in one direction, you got ripples in another direction. They're intersecting in an interesting pattern. So it's almost like a checkerboard on the water. You can just barely pick out some of the coins, what I think are coins on the bottom. But again, it's abstract enough that it's all about the pattern for me. But I can still get a sense that yes, this is a pool or or a fountain of some sort. The only distraction, the only negative are these specular highlights down at the bottom. I think using Lightroom or a similar tool to either clone these out, I think a cloning is probably going to work well enough, or at least minimizing the highlights a little bit would probably strengthen this. Or even cropping them out. Maybe cropping right above that upper specular highlight. But again, I'm nitpicking here. I like the image.
I think the image shows the most important part of the whole photographic suite, if you will, and that is the eye of the photographer. You got to see something. And so it's how you look at the world and things you notice that then might be captured photographically. And so to be able to see, you have to see that first before you want to take a picture of it. And you have to have a certain state of mind. I notice when I am shooting pictures sometimes that it's very different. It's much more abstract. I may not even, the content of what I'm shooting is not what I'm seeing. It's patterns, it's proportions, it's lines of light or movement. It's a whole other way of seeing things. I think that's so, and I see that in this photograph.
Thank you. And I think that's one of my challenges, is that I am not 90% of the time when something takes my breath away, I'm not able to capture it. Or whenever I take a photograph, I'm not even justifying what I'm seeing. But knowing what you guys are obviously doing in advanced levels and getting some of that understanding to how to capture is really helpful. And I'm hopefully going to learn a lot on that, is to be able to translate that into an image, which I'm understanding so much about now.
Yeah, it can be a challenge. You're standing, you're hiking, you're out in nature and you're hiking along, and you come out on this overlook and you just got this stunning view in front of you, and you're like, man, I want to capture that. And it can be difficult to capture that. And what I would urge is what I do is I ask myself, what is it about this scene that's actually appealing to me? In your first, what the scene, it's such a beautiful scene. Okay, well, maybe that's what you get. You got the snapshot, great. But is there something that is specific about that? Is it, like in this case, is it the really interesting intersection of patterns, that's making a really great play on the light? Then I think you've done a great job of zooming in on just that element of the scene, for example. If you're out in the woods and you come up on that outcropping, what is it about the scene? Is it really about the grand vista, or is it just the juxtaposition of a foreground element contrasted with that grand vista in the background? What I'm getting at is look for what is the real subject of what you're seeing and try to find a way to bring out that subject. And it can be a challenge. And that is the engaging part of this hobby profession that we're all engaged in here, is that constant pursuit of I've got it in my head. Now, how do I make it translate into that sensor and that image on the camera?
Let me
Right.
restate what he said. In a way, interesting. What subset of this really is capturing the essence of what I'm feeling? Not the whole thing, but one subset. If you want to do the whole thing, you're going to do a panorama of multiple shots. Yeah, and you can do that. But what subset of that is the photograph?
And frequently, just to build on this, frequently when I'm out in nature and stuff, I'll take that grand shot, and then I'll start looking for, all right, I've got the place shot, I've got the placement. Now, how can I bring out an element of this scene that will be unique? Because anybody walking up can get the grand vista. You pull out your iPhone and snap, you're done. But is there some way that I can make it my own? Going back to what Fred said, looking for those subset, zooming in on something really close up, so you can see a hint of what's in the background, but it's really about the close up. And I'm just putting out ideas. Everybody comes to whatever the scene is, whether it's the fountain or the overlook on the trail. You come to it with your own vision, your own artistic sense, and just look for those ways to make it your own.
I carry my iPhone and my camera for what that's worth.
You know, as the old saying goes,
You know, as
horses
the
for
old
courses.
saying goes, horses for courses.
And sometimes that iPhone
And
camera is going to
sometimes that
be just
iPhone
what you
camera
need.
is going to
You know,
be
it gets
just
you a
what
nice
you need.
wide
You know,
shot
it gets
that
you a nice
the
wide
lens
shot
that you
that
brought with you
the lens that you
can't
brought
get.
with you can't get.
Right. Quick question. How often is this group going to meet? I mean, even if I'm on silent mode, I think I'm going to learn so much. How often do you guys meet like this?
These meetings are
These
twice a month.
meetings are twice a month.
Now we're coming up on the end of our season.
we're
So
coming up
going
on-
into summer, it may be fewer than twice a month, but these online, you know, club meetings are twice a month that are scheduled.
Perfect. I'll look forward to being here. Thank you so much.
In addition to that, we do have various meetups that we'll do on weekends from time to time. You know, for example, back in April, there were a couple of times that folks got together and went out to the Bluebells, you know, just take pictures of the Bluebells. Before that, I think Jen Gonzalez did a hike down Difficult Run up near
Yep.
Great Falls.
Yep.
And you know, we've done, Sam's, done some stuff with various cosplay get-togethers and demonstrations. So we'll, just keep an eye on our Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, we post stuff there. We also update our club website with various events that are going on, and also at a meetup. We post our stuff at a meetup, whether it's the scheduled meetings or the what I'm going to call the non-club schedule, basically outside of the normal twice a month schedule, like the meetups on the weekends and stuff. We post those out on Meetup too.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll look out for those and hopefully meet you guys in person.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Good luck, bye.
Take care, everybody. Got to go walk the dogs.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about that time. All right.
Okay.
Hi.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thanks.
guys.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.